Hey, Abhinav, nice to have you for the first interview of Gravitas WINS Radio. I really appreciate you coming in here.
Well, hi Joseph. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to always talk to you. And it's even better when we are recording this conversation because I can take it back and learn again, which I generally forget from my past conversations with you.
Wonderful. That's good. That's good to hear. Okay, let's start from what you do and how did you get into the role and how anybody else can prepare themselves to get into that role. So, what do you do, Abhinav? What's your day job?
Sure, yeah. So I'm working as a product manager with an IT company. So I basically take care of defining the problems from our customers, then researching about those problems and proper possible solutions about that. And even in the existing product, I need to research on how to make it even better for our existing customer base and how we can pitch it to more customers and beating to our competition basically. So yeah, that's pretty much my role. And then bringing them down to the actual planning and tasks on whatever the team needs to work on next, and how the delivery goes out. Are we doing the right quality delivery? What is coming in from the support? Are there any issues? What kind of issues are there? So how can we minimize those issues in the future? So that's a summary of what I do. Yeah. And
Wonderful.
regarding how somebody can get into my role, so yeah, it's an interesting journey for me as well. Luckily I got a chance to start with a basic startup. I was an investor myself in that. I think you know my story pretty much well, but yeah, just to let everybody have the perspective of where I'm coming from. I am basically belong to a business family. Whole of my family, my father, my forefathers have been major businessmen. I would say that I would be probably the first who diverged into a something different professional field, but that was always the idea for me. Even my father wanted me to go into the professional field. He never wanted me to go into the business stuff. So one thing while my journey into the family business as well was that I was luckily taking care of the production and managing people. So that gave me the first hand idea, and you can say the realization as well. Since I was doing bachelor of technology, I uh, initially identified I'm a poor coder. I would even copy the code for printing hello world in C, if I remember that labs correctly. So I immediately recognized that this may not be a good way to start. However, if I have to start in some coding profession, I would do that because I need to get my foot into the door. But yeah, I was lucky that I got this opportunity with a startup, and then I got a chance to actually discuss problems with clients, define those problems into a kind of a feature listing, work breakdown structures, which I professionally learned afterwards with going on through my career. So yeah, that is where I realized that I define problems really well, and I research for solutions even better, so I can give multiple options of solutions. And that is pretty much the requirement of the job. So I started as a business analyst. Like, I'm very lucky to have worked with you as well in the same team. So I think that was one of the major growth factor, I would say, in my career. Those 3 years, not just owing to you, the whole organization and my team, but yeah, you can take some credit. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So like, even looking at the perspective of having from the sales perspective as well, I was earlier looking only from the product building perspective. But being a product manager, it is very important that you learn how to actually create value both for the business and both for the customers as well. So that I learned with you when we went on like many pre-sales calls, and I got to understand more about the aspects of how you can push your customers to better solutions, or how you can do better for your teams as well when you are pushing the right solutions for the customers that are feasible for your teams to build. You have to be smart about that as well. So yeah, that has been the journey. And if you want to get into a product management role, if you are a technical person, that's even better, because that will give you a very strong hand with your team. I, on my way of these past 10 years, I have learned my way to talk the talk basically with the developers, and that is some skill that I built on the way. But if you're a technical guy, that is a very strong point to build on a product management role.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Abhinav, for that. You said you would copy the code for Hello World. I think even now we all copy codes from everywhere else in
Yes,
Stack Overflow and everything. So
definitely.
I think now that is a given thing.
Mm.
Earlier, yes, it was looked down upon.
Yep.
Now it has become a norm that everybody copies code from Stack Overflow and everywhere else.
You stop
Uh,
abusing the programmers.
hey, I'm a CTO, so I can.
Yeah, that way you can.
Good, good. See, you said you started off as a business analyst and then you moved on as a product owner and a product manager. Are these all different roles, or these are all roles that you climb on the way to whatever that you are, project a product manager or whatever?
Look, if I say like back when I was a business analyst, I never even knew what is product owner, what is product management. I pu- I did knew there is a project manager above me who takes care of everything, but on my way I got to understand like about the processes. So that is again a skill that you need to have as a product manager. You need to build effective processes
Hmm.
using which your team can be hyper productive basically, and that is what I learned. Like I started with the startup, so there were no processes at all. Whatever we were doing was the process. So then I moved on to straight away a big culture shock. I was into like straight away CMMI level 3 processes. I had to document everything. There are 280 pages of SRSs and that funny world we lived in. So creating use cases and everything. But that actually gave me a very core perspective of what business analysis is. I was lucky
Hmm.
enough to be involved in kind of an agile transformation. So agile was hitting in the
Hmm.
market, though US and UK markets have been doing it like for past 8 9 years, but in India
Hmm.
it became gained popularity only I think in last 5 6 years, and that is where
Yeah.
I also got a chance to like connect to the teams on the basis of agile processes, and then where I got to learn about these roles of Scrum Master, the product owner, and then the Scrum team. So the product owner is not much different from a business analyst, but it depends on the team. Product owner is basically you are the owner of that product. You are basically the proxy customer for your team.
Mm.
But business
Mm.
analyst is more like a documentation guy you have. So
Mm.
you have
Mm.
client calls and you document some things for your team to process. But ultimately, the project manager has to take care of everything. But
Okay. Okay.
being a
Thanks.
product owner, I got to chance to like actually take care of that product as a baby. So yeah, that's the primary difference.
Okay, I think the point that you said, the sentence that you said, you're a proxy owner of that. I mean, you're a proxy from a customer team for the development team. So that's, I think, is the product owner. So that's a
Yes.
good definition that you gave. So in between, you also said hyper performance, and I remember you published a LinkedIn article on this particular line,
Yep.
building hyper performance teams on VUCA World. Uh, what do you mean by VUCA world, and what do you mean by hyper performance?
So VUCA world is like again a fancy word product managers use nowadays to define like what kind of world we are living in. So to put in a simple way, VUCA is just an abbreviation of volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So we have been living in VUCA world all since the start. Like workplaces have already been a VUCA world. You never know what will happen, what your customers will suggest whenever you deploy something. It has been in that sense, but now since past couple of years, I would say post COVID, things have become more like volatile. You never know what is going to
Hmm.
happen. Like take an example of last 3 months. We were all happy. Yay, we got the independence from COVID and we can step out. And we happily stepped out. But just after a month, we get a call. No, nobody. You need to go in again. Go into your hole. Go into your shell. Take care. I'm back. So this will keep happening. You never know that markets will
Yeah.
shut down. Like if I take an example of my past organization, it's a UK based organization. So they were facing the second wave while we ended the first wave. So
Mm.
for me, the situation was that yeah, the world is going good now, getting better, but for them, the world was crashing again for them, and the markets again closed. So it hit the business. Though we are sitting here working for them, but their market is there. So our jobs are affected for that as well. Our revenues are affected from theirs as well. So that is the volatility and uncertainty that we live into this world, and with that comes the complexity. So what kind of products you need to work on. Should I work on a new feature
Mm.
to attract the customers, or should I keep my current customer base first on my hand, so that I don't lose them as a constant revenue. So that's the ambiguity as well. So this is where it gets tougher to even work with the product team, and that too remotely. So that is what essentially the core idea of my article was, and that is what something I have understood in the past 1.5 years on how to work. It's basically three things: communication, transparency, and trust. So if you are able to do that with your teams, I think your team will be performing really good.
Wonderful. So communication, transparency, and trust.
Correct.
Those are the three things that you are saying that it
That
should
is
be,
correct. Yeah.
right? Okay. Uh, and you talked about hyper performance. So how do you differentiate performance from hyper performance? As long as I'm performant,
Yeah.
if my team members are performant, I'm extremely happy. I don't want them to be hyper performant.
Yes.
So what do you mean?
So, like when I heard about this term called hyper productive or high performance teams, I used to say the same thing. Like, if my team is delivering on date, or even with a delay of 1 to 2 days, which is feasible because we generally take that buffer, I have a very good team, and they are a very high performing team. But nowadays, that does not work because the kind of products and the kind of minds who were releasing those products were really less. There was less exposure 10 years back than it is now. So, like if I talk about school students as well, I sometimes hear them talking about their startup ideas. We got to know about startups only when we entered the college, and our teachers were saying that you should be a job provider, not a job owner. So that
Mhm.
was one thing that we learned in my college passing out time. And now people are already talking about building their own startups, while I'm already 10 years
Mhm.
into my professional career, and I'm thinking where the hell I was in that world.
Mhm.
So the thing is that regarding high performance is that your team does not need to be just dependent on the project manager or the product manager to take the responsibility of moving the product along to the new scale.
Mm.
You have
Mm.
to make them included in the whole project plan, the whole product plan. What is the vision, why are we doing this, and if they have any views on what they think could be done in a better way, in a more efficient manner. So like we generally think that a developer cannot think in a problems way, but they can certainly think how to fix a problem smartly. So I can
Mm.
save time there, and I can decrease my time to market. So that is where the inclusion comes with the technical team, and that is what I have experienced with my teams. When I include them in the whole, I have made my product roadmap totally transparent. I put it all for them on Confluence. They can post their comments, they can like, dislike, they can share whatever their criticism as well, like why are we going to do this, this would take so much time, we should do it like this. So everything is an insight for me as a product manager, and we are getting smarter day by day. So
Mm.
that is where
So
is high performance comes in.
okay, so what you are saying is, as a cohesive unit, so individually they are all there. Earlier what we would do is we would take up some requirement, somebody will work in silo, I mean locking themselves in a cave. They will put it out and then they will give to the developer. The developers will go into the caves, they will develop it, and by the time it comes, we don't know whether that the product that the customer wanted in the first place.
Exactly.
So what you are saying is, through this particular journey, include everybody so that everybody is able to come through and everybody is having the same vision. So their tactics and techniques might be different, but their goal is the same,
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
what you are saying. Okay. Now, it's an interesting one because I always think in systems thinking way. There are two broad principles that I apply in life. I view everything either as a systems thinking way or in a mimetic theory way. So what you are saying is, it is sum is greater than the parts. So it is not the individual pieces that developer, business analyst, product owner, client bring everybody together, so that together we are able to achieve something that's far better, and everybody feels I have contributed to this in a very positive
That's
direct
correct.
way. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, okay, so we have talked about this high performance, hyper performance, and all of that. Now, is it possible you form a team? So Joseph is hyper performant, he's fantastic. Abhinav is hyper performant in his own way. can we combine this individual hyper performing individuals, bring them together and create a high performing team, or that's something different?
Well, yeah, wherever I go, it's the normal discussion. So, like, we have interesting meetings regarding resource allocation. So, what we generally think is that,
Uh-huh.
oh, that guy has an 18 years experience and that guy has a 7 years experience. Let me have those
Mm.
two, and I will take care of rest of the things. But that is not how things work. So, if I may, I can quote a very I think a funnily brilliant model that I came across. I even mentioned that in one of my talks recently in psychological safety. So this is called the super chicken model, and this was experimented by William Moore in the Purdue University in 2003. So what he did was, just like exactly you mentioned, he created a group of super chickens who were very productive in terms of their egg produce, and he created another group of average chickens who were just producing like regular number of eggs daily, and he created those groups, segregated them, monitored their progress for the next 2 years. So, to everybody's surprise, what happened was that after 2 years, when he checked the nest for the super chickens, only three were left. So he put in like 15, 20 there. Only three were left alive. So what do you think is the reason is? They pecked each other to death because they wanted the ultimate supremacy of that being
Ah.
the high performing individual they want to be. So they cannot take that, why is this individual performing better than me, I'll kill them.
Mm.
So I have to be the
Mm.
ultimate king. So this may or may not occur, but generally what I have seen the trend, it generally occurs in every organization. It
Mm.
could be a smaller size
True.
organization, could be large organization. But when he checked about the average chickens, they were performing even better so than their
Mm.
average produce after 2 years, and their number actually increased because they learned from their own mistakes why they were producing low. So they became a happy environment there, and they actually increased their produce of eggs. So the exact same thing happens in your organizations or even my family as well. So somebody has to
Yeah,
take the
yeah.
responsibility. Somebody has to take the responsibility. You cannot say that both the husband and wife will take the responsibility. Somebody has to take the responsibility and move that something forward, and you balance out each other. So that is what exactly happens, and it is not promised that if me and you work together we will produce something in the next big thing, the SpaceX or the Teslas or the Amazons. It could be that we form a partnership and we have a team which balances us out, and then we
Mm.
can work really well, rather than having like the same level of developers also in my team, and you and me also discussing and quarreling over different ideas. It is always preferred to have a balanced kind of a team, so that we cancel out the negativities from each other and create
So
less competition individually.
sure. So what I'm thinking as you are speaking is that the cohesiveness between the team matters the more rather than the single individuals. Our history and our society, it's all adores that single individual 10x programmer kind of a model,
Right.
but that doesn't really help in the product building. What helps is the cohesiveness of the team. They are able to come together and create something larger than the individual capabilities are.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so that's fine. Now you talked about, like, I mean, COVID affecting your job, and all of us are working for some other clients sitting in the US or UK or Canada or anywhere else. Uh, do you think will we ever get out of this COVID, or we will learn to live with COVID? That's one, and two is how will this hyper performance or remote working uh, be affected by this COVID at all?
So the way I see it right now is that with COVID, people have learned to work from home. So initially, work from
Hmm.
home was considered a privilege, and now it is more like the routine. So what we
Hmm.
got to learn from this is that people can actually work from home, though it has its own set of problems. While we are working, it brings more challenges to communication and transparency and trust, whatever I mentioned initially, to create a high performance team. But what it will do is like bring the companies and the employees to a same platform to understand like it is all about the performance and not about being in the office or not in the office.
Mm.
It may be the employee's choice that they want to visit the office or they want to be in some place. Like for example, there is a deployment, there is an important deployment, and five people need to be, they want to be together while they are deploying it so that they have better communication. That's understandable,
Mm.
because on while working from home you never know, the connection may break or not. So that is way the way I see the kind of work we will do. Regarding COVID, I am not sure what will happen, but what I am listening is that it may take up to like 2 to 3 years more for us to get out.
Mm.
But what it would affect will be long term. That is what I am assuming,
Mm.
and the effect that it will have on our lives will stay on the next 5 to 6 years, because it will take some time for us to get out of this mindset, going back to the offices again, roaming freely all around, though people are already doing that to bring in the third wave thanks to their effort. So yeah, but that's the way I see it.
So what you are saying is, and I believe that is way it is going to be. We are not going back to a normal. We will find something else as the normal thing, and that is what it is going to be. And
Right.
the normal thing might be every year having a vaccine, and always having a distance with everybody else, and so on and so forth. So probably that is what, at least for the next 5 6 years, it might be, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay. uh, Now, okay, you are talking about this product owner, product management, and you talked about some of the things that you do. What are the activities that you do? What are the habits that makes you as Abhinav, an individual, as highly performant, highly productive? Can you share about your habits?
So there are two types of habit that I try to maintain. One is where my workplace habits, and the second one is what
Okay.
I personally do for myself to stay competent for my workplace and for my personal life.
Mm.
So the first habit that I could say probably for my workplace is to have open channels of communication. I think that is the basis of building that transparency. Once we have the transparency among everybody in the team, they know they can trust me and they can trust the leadership, because they will not do something that may hurt them, hurt their reputation. I think if I am able to do that, my team will be performing really well. So whether it is performing to a certain standard or becoming a high performance team, it will eventually become a hyper productive team. I know that. Know that for a fact, because I have been able to do that. So that is one. The second one is set myself where I want to see, like the solution focused approach. We just discussed about this in a clubhouse event that you hosted. So like it's an interesting way that I found a year back. I wrote my goals, where I want to see myself in a career terms, and where I want to see myself in terms of parenting for my
Mm.
daughter, because that is the biggest project of my life. If that fails, everything fails. I will be sitting on my
Mm.
road, basically. So yeah, so
Mm.
I need to build a good life for them so that they can eventually be making sure that I have a good life as well. Though I will be responsible for myself, but you generally, being an Indian parent, you generally expect that out of your children. So that is where I see that if I want to be a good parent, and I shared that with you once, that like I see myself not as privileged to be the father,
Mm.
and I have to be the teacher to my daughter. So I see that
Mm.
she has to see me as the mentor, and not as the father who will always have the right to tell her that you need to correct this. So it is me who needs to set the example, like the way I have been setting my habits, like the 15 minutes read and write session
Mm.
I schedule now daily. She monitors that. She in fact yesterday asked to me, like, why are you writing this so much and why are you reading so much? So I told her that I'm doing this. She was shocked that I was not supposed to do that. I was not doing that like 6 months back. Why am I doing that now? So like she got excited and she wanted me to create a blog for her, and
Mm.
she even started writing an introduction for herself that she wants to put me on her blog. And though she is a TikToker and Instagram reeler, the way I see it, but I some way inspired her to do something fruitful for her. So that is the way I see. That is the kind of habits I build on.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Abhinav. And I always say this, that when one teaches, two learns. So
Right.
kind of you are kind of a teacher, but then you are also getting inspired to learn something new from her. So which is nice. And I remember this particular quote from what you shared on LinkedIn, on one of the places, or probably on the clubhouse discussion that we had, is that we have to earn the right to be a mentor to our children. We cannot assume just because we are fathers or mothers that we can go and demand something from our kids. We'll have to earn that particular right, and that earning will happen because of the way that we conduct ourselves, because of the way that we are a role models, and so on and so forth. So which is a fantastic thing. uh, Nice. Like, I mean, so we talked about, work. We talked about our support system, which is our family.
Yeah.
Now, uh, now, like, I mean, let's talk about some of the personal things.
Sure.
What are the books or the movies that shifted your thinking in the recent, let's say, for example, 3 4 years?
So, if you talk about the books that have affected me in a way, I would say the Phoenix Project. So, the book basically tells about why is it so important to have a process. So, like through my journey as a business analyst, and then on to a product owner, then even leading the agile transformation, then going pre-sales, then eventually to product management,
Hmm.
I wanted to understand like why is it so important to have a process. Shouldn't we just group some great people together and we will be able to produce the software that our customer wants, because he told us what to build, so we can just do that. But what I learned was that a person who comes from a manufacturing background goes into an IT organization and then sees what the hell is happening here. Like nobody is able to deliver anything, and there is chaos everywhere, and people are delegating their tasks to other each other, and nobody is, when he asks some questions, they keep on delegating to some other person, and he has to just run through the people. And he then builds that process of taking the cues of the Toyota Production Management System, the TPM, famously we known as the Agile Mother, what we generally say as Agilists. So he takes his cues from that, establishes that process, and then in the end, he does not say that I have revamped everything. He shares that I have increased the productivity. I have got things to a level where people understand each other and are ready to take responsibility, and that is where the actual high performance thing starts. If you have the right
Okay.
effective process, that is where you start with the right delivery as well. So it is very important to have that process. That book taught me that much. Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful. So the book talks about the importance of processes.
Right.
So I agree. Like, I mean, we can all bring in all the people together, highly competent people together, but if there's no process to kind of manage the work that they are doing, they're all going to dissipate their competence and their work and
Right.
effort, and probably nothing is left after that. So okay, so that's Phoenix Project. I haven't read it, so probably I'll read that now.
Sure.
uh, you have taken this Gravitas WINS course. What's the best thing that you've learned out of Gravitas WINS course?
Gravitas wins course. Like, here's my confession. Like, whenever I enrolled, I procrastinated to join that class as well, if I may say now. So, yeah, that was my biggest challenge. And I know that I think you hear so many people say that my biggest failure is that I procrastinate. Now
Mhm.
I have always known that I have the right balance and right attitude to actually work my way 10x better than any other individual who is in front of me, because I know for a fact that I am so confident about my skills, and if I am able to do that. The problem is if I'm able to do that. So I was not able to do that because, like, I booked a blog name like 2 years back. I don't even remember when I booked it, and then it was just there. uh, I took it about 6 months to just even go to WordPress and build my blog, and then it took another 6 months for me to just write a post for that blog, and then it took another 4 or 5 months to even write the second post for my blog. But what the Gravitas Wins does is that, the things you mentioned, having that system and mimicking. So
Mhm.
Gravitas Wins added the third dimension as well, the accountability. for me.
Mm.
So having the system and structure, that gave me the way on how to achieve better things. Like, what if I have planned something, I need to achieve it, but now I have a tool to do something, but who is holding me responsible to do that? Again, I can procrastinate, which I did initially. So, but the accountability and setting up the flywheel made me understand, and the flywheel thing especially hit me hard. Like, if I don't do this right now, I will never do it, because this is the time, this is the age, this is the time of experience that I am in, where I can actually build on a flywheel that would churn value for me, both socially and monetary terms, for the next 10 years in my career. So I need to learn more. If I'm learning, I need to produce that again. Consume, produce, engage. So basically, I'm consuming from books, from reading blogs, from reading your posts, from Gravitas Win scores, from the community, and then I'm writing about that. I'm sharing over LinkedIn, I'm tweeting, or I'm writing over my blog post, whatever I'm learning at my workplace or anything. And then I'm engaging in conversation where I comment to other posts and people comment on my post. Then we learn something new, and then it goes on to the third way, like just doing like this podcast. So we started with my role,
Yeah.
and then we went into my business, and then we went into our personal life. So it's again, one thing will lead you to another. So it's again a
Yeah.
flywheel of conversation, which you are building for yourself. So you are building an insight
Wonderful.
platform for yourself. You are then engaging with that insight platform to build value for yourself as well, and your network will
Wonderful.
basically be the value for you, and it will earn more value for you. So I think that the second thing is especially the accountability. Like, having the accountability team, it has become like most of a routine now, like the Thursdays
Mm-hmm.
show and the Sunday meetings that we have. So it's like a support group for me, where I
Mm.
just come
Mm.
to check, like, I should be on track because I need to present this to my group. So that is somewhere like a social uh, push to you. You don't want to look fool in front of your friends. Nobody wants that. So you may look like that for the first week or the second week, but ultimately third week, when you realize that other people are doing it and they are sharing it, what they are doing, you will feel left out, and you will ultimately start pushing yourself to at least start with something. And where I build my own thing of micro improvements. I set short goals, 15 minutes, then 15 minutes run, 2 runs a week, 15-minute reading or writing. Just do reading or writing for 15 minutes in a day. Now that is easy to, very difficult to fail rather than easy to succeed.
Mm.
I would say difficult to fail.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that is where I think Gravitas Wins course have given me the direction, and that has been, I have been working on the past couple of months, and it is showing superb benefits. I even cannot realize myself writing so much these days, reading so much, and actually gaining so much from that, rather than just reading and forgetting it. I actually remember things much better than I did now, in the past. So yeah, I think that's wonders to me. Thanks to you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks to hear that. My again, like I mean, we talked about it earlier also in this particular episode. Uh, my aim is to create a community which is hyper performant.
Right.
Individually, you are hyper performant, but when you're coming together, you hold each other accountable, and then we are all push each other. We all take the mental knot that somebody might have and give out certain kind of an information from our own practices
Yeah.
and say, hey, will this work for you? And then push others to move forward. So which is good. uh, what's the kindest thing somebody has done for you?
Uh, kind of thing. So there are two things that can come to my mind. So for my personal life, I would say my father-in-law. Now everybody will laugh, though everybody who knows me, and especially you are already laughing. People can see that, because for a fact I know that I joke a lot about my married life, and yeah, you need to joke around on whatever problems you have in your life. So yeah, I'm not saying my married life is a problem, but you get that. So, but like, the way I was treated with my by my own family in the past 7 8 years after my father passed away, so it showed me that it is you who have to stand up for your family and nobody else. But having that kind of a mental support from my father-in-law and their family, they really stood so hard in my back, that they wanted me to do well, and they were ready to support me for anything, even when I wanted to do a job. They are themselves a business family. I come from a business family, but they were ready for me, and they were actually pushing me to do a job, or do work in a startup, do anything else. They will support you. So that is where I think I can never thank them enough to support them, and that has took me to the journey where I am today. The second one, I can easily think of the person who is actually in the next window of the video screen, which is Mr. Joseph Jude. So what I do is that if I recall my small conversations with you, even when we were not like this mentor coach, or we can call ourselves friends now. So even when you were somebody who was very senior, who just came in, and I was a business analyst, like begging to learn new things, and I was very aggressive in terms of learning. I wanted to take new challenges every time I wanted to. So those small conversations of wherever you threw in some kind of tips, you need to self brand yourself. I can never forget that conversation that I had with you. You told me that you need to brand yourself, dude. uh, you just cannot see yourself doing good only in your workplace. You need to brand yourself, sell yourself to anything. Like, you will not stay in the same profession for your whole life, or even if you stay, you want to grow there. So you have to be a product for yourself, and build towards that, how you want to sell that. So build value around it. So I think I can never thank you enough for that. And we have been having these kind of constant chats since past, whenever our acquaintance was. And it has been like, I treat you as one of the life coaches I have. I've paid you first time, but yeah, that is on me, because I never utilize the free learnings.
Yeah, but it was not a trick
Yeah.
question for you to say that. I was one of the thing was, it was not a trick question. I did not actually expect this at all.
No, no,
Thank you very much,
but it
Abhinav. I
is
mean,
the actual cardinal truth in my life, that I really hold a great respect for you, for wherever I am in my career. I think you have played a very big role. Other than the managers that I was very lucky to have good managers who actually taught me really well. But somebody who actually was pushing me, or giving me the thought process to actually think about myself as being a product and not just a resource for some team, I think that was you. So I would have never achieved this
wonderful.
organic growth in my career if it would have been to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. Now that we have talked about this, what's your definition of a good life?
Good life. So for me, currently, the good life is where I can just sleep well in the night, thinking that I did some good work today, whether it is
Mm,
my
mm,
workplace, or whether it is being in a position where I can help somebody to do something good.
mm-hmm.
It could be my daughter, it could be some colleague, it could be an acquaintance in my network who actually needed my reference to do something, and or even sharing something. Some people even reach out to me, some juniors reach out to me, that how I deal with this kind of a situation in my workplace or my family. So I tell them what I had. I do not advise them, but I tell them what I did. So I think if I have impacted somebody's life positively in the whole day, I think that's the good life that I want to have.
Wonderful. So, if you're positively impacted somebody's life, if you improved somebody's life,
Yes.
that's a good life. That's a fantastic definition. Thanks, Abhinav, for that. Okay, thank you for taking this time, Abhinav. I really, really appreciate. And it was not a tricky thing that I did, but I'm really touched. I mean, I'm really thankful to that. Where can people find you online
So
if they want to connect with you and to learn
yeah.
about product ownership and others? How can they find you?
So the best way is to connect with me over LinkedIn, or follow me on Twitter, or you
Okay.
can DM me there. And I even write regularly on my blog, theabhinavg.com. So you can subscribe my blog. You can even ping me on my email as well. We can collaborate on a discussion anytime.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Abhinav. Thank you for taking the time, even though it is very late in the evening that you're taking this time. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem. I will share my
Thank you.
GPay code with you, and you can just do the anything you want to.